Students on this campus, if you ask them about environmental issues, they'll talk about recycling. And nobody kind of seems to get how to put these things in context. The efforts that we need on our buildings are huge. We do have a fairly low transportation footprint because of the residential campus, having our students live very close around here, and the commuting. But that means we have a lot to do in the building area. That number for U of I is the same as the carbon emissions for the city of Urbana. Next year, when petascale goes online, we will leave Urbana in the dust, not in a good way. These are our emissions growths, like our emissions projections on a business as usual scenario. This is petascale, nice big jump. We'd be over 1 million tons a year in 2050 if we continue to grow and do things as we have. What are our kind of goals through the climate action plan? I'm going to race through these 4 slides. It's a 20% reduction by 2015, which we'll meet next year, and a 40% reduction by 2025. We can do better, but these are good goals. We tried to get 10% steeper ones, but oh well. Coal use. We've cut our steam demand by 27% in the past 3 years. We've cut our coal use kind of on track with that by about 30-35% from the peaks that we've used. We have the ability, we have a lot of spare gas capacity to probably run without coal 9 out of 12 months of the year right now. We need coal really only to help us through the winter peaks. And if we cut steam use another 10 to 20%, we shouldn't need it at all. That really is kind of our focus with coal, because we're a steam-centric campus. We co-generate, but we make electricity fairly inefficiently. So most of our output goes into steam. Our electricity overall efficiencies, if you take out the gas turbines that we have on campus, is about 10%. 10% of the input fossil energy turns into electricity. At a modern coal-fired power plant, not that I like them, you get 40%. And our equipment, again, excluding the gas turbines, this stuff dates back to the 60s. Some of it dates back to the 50s. In fact, I think there's an old turbine whose nameplate rating dates back to the 30s if you go on a tour at Abbott Power Plant. There's a lot of old stuff there, which is why it doesn't work very well. Renewable energy, we're looking at campus targets for 5% of all energy by 2015. This is going to be hard to do. Campus currently has 0.02%, something like that. That's the solar arrays on top of this. That's all we've got. So this is certainly not easy. It's certainly not easy with a 7-year procurement cycle on wind turbines. If we were to try and get everything on campus to meet this 5% goal from wind energy, we'd be talking about 15 utility scale wind turbines. So 5% for 5% of the electricity, but we use a lot of non-electricity energy as well. We are looking at biofuels. It is a possible interim strategy, like co-firing coal and biofuels together at a 10 or 15% level could meet that goal, but there is a high likelihood that we can only use biofuels on campus by co-firing with coal. We can't burn them by themselves. The equipment in general, like old coal boilers, are not designed to burn biofuels. They're designed to burn some, like you can put in a little bit of biofuels. That's what's happened at Iowa and several other places, but not all the way. And we're going to pay attention to how that, like we don't want it to prevent us from stopping burning coal. Oh, we're burning 10% biofuel, so we should keep the coal boilers running, which is kind of a worst case scenario there. This is something noteworthy that no other school has made a commitment to. We have agreed to no net increases in space at the University of Illinois. That means if we build a new building, we have to take existing space out of service. This doesn't apply to, so ECE is probably the last building project of its kind that does not have to meet that rule. Iconberry is replacing old space. But anything new is going to bring old buildings out of service. And that, I don't think anyone has done. And that's going to be an incredibly hard commitment for our campus to meet if you look at how we grow. Because that tends to be also how we bring in money to the campus. We ask people for money for a new building, for naming rights to part of a building. We never direct money or try and get it to our existing buildings, which is really unfortunate, but which is going to start changing now. And we have a rule that campus construction post-25 is going to have to be net zero. That, I mean, is also not easy. We are doing that, though, at ECE. ECE is going to be our first net zero building on campus. Anything else? These are kind of a summary of major commitments. We're looking at a 55% reduction overall by 2025 in campus emissions. We're looking at imposing greenhouse gas fees on cars that travel to campus in a few years. We have the no net increase in space. We have renewable energy, coal use, and energy conservation targets. This is our mitigation wedge diagram, which I'm not really going to talk about, just showing how different strategies contribute. Skip this. This is probably worth discussing in that student engagement really was critical in getting a climate action plan. Minnesota was working on their plan. They put it off because it was too hard and because of the budget. Honestly, I think U of I came fairly close to putting this off as well because of the budget. We're the only school of this kind. We're the only one in the Big Ten that has put out a climate action plan. Because it's not easy to do. It's not easy to make those commitments. I think a big part of it for us was when students voted to increase their contributions to campus sustainability with a 77% approval margin this spring, they couldn't say no at that point. They couldn't say, oh, we're not going to pass our climate, we're not going to adopt a climate action plan this term. And that was big. Like having students involved, having students meet with the chancellor regularly, having students engage with off-campus groups, this work with the Sierra Club especially, that terrifies this place. The Sierra Club, their lawyers forced Wisconsin to stop burning coal. Basically found lots of Clean Air Act regulation violations in what they were trying to do to